I think sometimes we can just underestimate simple things like having vegetables as a base. We're supposed to have 5 serves of vegetables a day. This is more than 1 serve, that's for sure. And you know, it all adds up, and it also helps to mean that you're getting the best value for the money you've spent. Okay, so this is part of the Veggie Boosting series. Basically, I've got the organic zucchini that I managed to pick up on a clearance. I'm going to use that as the base. Just cooked it up a bit. I'm going to add some lemon and cracked pepper tuna to that, and some mushrooms as well, just to really boost my vegetable count. And because I think sometimes we can fill up on fillers because we think they're a cheap solution, and in the meantime we're not really focusing on our nutritional needs. So when opportunities like this come along, it's good to make the most of them to boost our vegetables. I actually decided I'm just going to have this mushroom and zucchini with some salt and pepper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grate up some more of this zucchini, add the lemon and cracked pepper tuna, and an egg or 2 to bind it. I'll see how many I need. And then okay, so I've got the grated zucchini, organic zucchini that I got on that clearance. I've got some lemon pepper tuna, and I also just added some of this honeyed red onion that I made. I had a little bit of that left over, so I thought, why not? I'll give that a go. So far we've got 2 eggs. I just got my hands a little bit messy, and I've just finished cleaning them because I am one of those people that I like to get every last bit of the egg white out of the shell. So I'll actually use my hands and, you know, use my fingers and just get that out. How about you? Are you one of those people? Do you get like every last bit of the egg white out? I'm like that with everything, actually. You know, toothpaste, whatever. Got to make sure I get every last bit, get my value's worth. Alright, well, it looks like 2 eggs is going to be good. Now, I could probably add a little bit of flour as a binder, or even like a flavoured soup mix if I wanted to, or something like that. But I'm not actually going to. I'll just use this. This will work. And I'm just going to make a loaf, basically. Why not? Got the ingredients on hand. That'll work. It's got nutrition in it. She'll be right. Okay, so here I've just got some of those roast organic carrots and some of that tuna and zucchini slice. Here's some more of the tuna and zucchini slice that I can just freeze up or set aside, do whatever with. I think I probably should have added a little bit of flour like I did with the other carrot slice. I think it would have just made the difference with this. So yeah, I think if I do it again, I'll probably add a little bit of flour. What is it? Roast vegetables. There you go. So I'll just stir that, add some grated cheese. I'll add some mushroom as well. I've got a little bit of mushroom left over, so I'll use that. I thought this would make a good throw together freezer type meal that you can just cook up the first time and then reheat whenever, like freeze and reheat whenever. So I'm just using the rest of the organic zucchini, and I'm going to mix it with a stir-through pasta sauce that I purchased on sale a while back that kind of needs to get used before it expires. And then I'm just going to add some grated cheese. So as you can see, I'm just layering it. You could probably do this, if you were doing it fresh, you could just do it in a container over a campfire, as in over coals. That'd work, you could make that work. Or a public barbecue. Could probably just have this in a foil container or some kind of container, and I'd probably pre-cook the components, like the actual zucchini. I'd probably pre-cook that on the barbecue and then layer it with everything else in a foil container or a reusable container, and then just sort of melt it, heat it up a bit more on the public barbecue, with maybe something to cover it, like some aluminium foil or something along those lines, just to help hold that heat in a little bit. So yeah, that's another option if you don't have access to a kitchen. As you can see, I'm continuing to layer it up. This is actually meat free, but it's got meat for vegetarians, mushrooms, and it's also got some cheese that could be adapted to vegan cheese if that's your thing. So yeah, it's fairly flexible, and if you've got leftover meat and you like meat, then you could add that as well. You know, anything from chicken to leftover spaghetti sauce to, you know, whatever basically. It's a very flexible thing. I was thinking about what I would estimate the cost of this as. I'm not sure if you can see the layers there. And honestly, I have no idea because it's just a throw together of things that were purchased on clearances and sales and little leftover bits and bobs. So, you know, it can cost as much or as little as you want, really, just based on what you've got around and what you have access to at the time. So it's, you know, it's quite a flexible thing. Right, so there we go. So I realise that these look a little bit nasty, to put it mildly, but you know, salvage what you can and cut some in other ways and blanch them and freeze them. Okay, so I've kept the tops of those and I'm just going to use those to grow some salad greens. I guess we'll go back to that later after they've had time to grow. Here I've got my mini grater to go with my nutmeg. That is what whole nutmeg looks like. Or half of a whole nutmeg. I've got some walnuts left over, and I've got some ground cinnamon. And what I've done for the most part is I've left about half the carrot that I've grated, well, less than half, as you can see, but I've left like that end bit. And I'm just going to slice those and roast them, and then freeze them so that I've got them when I feel like some roast vegetables. For the wonderful grated carrot here. And I'm just going to mix the nuts and the cinnamon and the nutmeg and an egg, possibly add a little bit of flour, see how we go, just as a bit of a binding aid. Interesting thing about walnuts, they look a bit like brains when they're not all chopped up, and they also are actually really good for brain health. They've got a lot of vitamins and minerals in them that are good for brain health. It's interesting with the nuts, a lot of them do that. They look like what they're actually good for. It helps you remember. So cashews are really good for kidneys, I believe, and they've got that, you know, kidney shape. There's all sorts of things. You know, read up on it. It's kind of interesting. Actually, a TV series called Wartime Farm. The BBC put it together. It's a bit about history, basically. It's a decent TV series if you're into that kind of thing. I find it interesting. And in that, they talk about the fact that because of the significant sugar shortages, my goodness, there's a mouthful, don't know why, that they had in World War II, a lot of the recipes called for things like carrot, because carrot has that nice sweetness to it. And so it was often used as a sweetener, and a lot of wartime desserts were actually made using carrot. Also, it was relatively readily available for people who were able to have their own garden. You know, it's fairly easy to grow, fairly prolific, and when you have an abundance of it, you have plenty. It keeps well in a root cellar. So it was something that a lot of people had a fair bit of, and it was something they were encouraged to eat as much as possible because obviously it's quite healthy, and it helped with morale. So there you go. Just noticed I've got a few of these around that don't seem to be getting eaten, so I'm going to add them as well. More sweetness. You know, we've got the cranberry, which is obviously great for vitamins, but we've also got the sultanas. Sultanas were also used a lot as a sweetening agent. So I've just added, I don't even know what flour's in this, I just use these containers because they're good for the flour. Just added, I don't know, probably about half a cup to about 2 cups of carrot, half a cup of self-raising flour. I've just mixed in that flour so you can kind of see the general consistency that I'm looking for. I don't want there to be heaps of flour in there, I just want it to kind of coat the mix a bit, to act as a binding agent. And I'm just adding these. Isn't that cute? Packets, by the way, if you have any of those just left over that you're not needing, one thing you can do is you can actually wrap them up in a nice gift wrap, or even just brown paper bag. Cut out the brown paper from a brown paper shopping bag or whatever. Use it to wrap them up. Add some nice leftover ribbon from salvaged from somewhere, or some little bit of string salvaged from something. Make a nice little sort of wrapped up package looking thing. And then there's actually poems that you can write down by hand or print off online about, you know, this is a little gift that you're not supposed to open. I'll see if I can find some links to that, or I'll copy it into the description. I'll figure that out. That's something that you can do and just have on hand for those times when you want to give a little something to somebody. Maybe you're going to add some home baking or whatever, but it's just a nice little gift that you can give, and nice little settlement that goes with it. You can use wood offcuts and things like that for it as well, and any leftover wrapping paper you might have from anything, you can use that. You know, it's a lovely upcycle project that doesn't actually cost you anything extra to make, really, so it's useful to have around, and it can really help to convey a nice sentiment. On with 2 eggs, and I'll mix that up, and then I've got the tray waiting, all covered in oil, ready. Okay, so hopefully this just gives you an idea about consistency. And you don't need to use the same ingredients. This isn't a recipe, this is just a general, here's something you can slap together with whatever you've got on hand. So some kind of sweet vegetable. I mean, you could probably use something like pumpkin if you wanted to, sweet potato, you know, they've got, you know, whatever you've got on hand. And then some dried fruit of some kind to add a bit of sweetness, a little bit of flour to coat it, and then a couple of eggs just to act as a binding agent. And then you could actually just fry these up as like fritters if you wanted to, or if that's the only equipment that you've got access to, is, you know, maybe a campfire or something else camping associated, like one of those little camping sets that you can have a fry pan with, or maybe it's a plug-in frying pan, maybe it's a muffin tins, you know, whatever you've got on hand. I could actually probably add some brown sugar to this if I wanted to, which I'm a little bit tempted to do. I might do that actually. I'll add just a little bit of brown sugar to it, because brown sugar is actually very high in molasses, and molasses has a lot of trace minerals in it, so good stuff. Honey, so yeah, you could add honey, or I've just added some nice brown sugar because I happen to have some on hand, but you know, whatever you've got left over lying about in your pantry that maybe is getting a bit forgotten. Maybe it's getting near its use by date, or it's past its use by date but it's still okay, but you really want to use it soon. Whatever, you know, use what you got. How is it they say it? Improvise, adapt and overcome. So yeah, I could probably use this for like a morning tea slice, or an afternoon tea snack, bit of a sweet treat and vegetable and fruit sort of a boost. You know, work with what you got, right? Incredible, really, isn't it, that all of those carrots looked like they were ruined and had it and were no good, and they would have just ended up in the bin. You know, think of the amount of things like that go to waste. So I'm just going to spray these with a bit of a coating of olive oil that I tend to buy in bulk. Being a little bit generous there. That's okay. Just in my little spray thing that you've seen before. I just buy the olive oil in bulk, and I have the reusable spray thing, and I bought this on a half price sale. It's fantastic. It's Decor brand, if anyone's wondering. I think I've mentioned it a few times now on the show.